Hi, I'm Grizzly Adams with Plano City Council. I'm kidding. It's Shelby Williams with Plano City Council. What do you think? It's coming in nicely, huh? It's only 3 months worth of growth. So at tonight's preliminary open meeting, we discussed the retail revitalization plan. This is a plan to provide grants of a nature similar to economic development grants that we provide to companies considering moving or expanding in Plano, but providing it to more of the little guys. So this comes under several forms. So I'll list all these out and then we'll have a little philosophical discussion. So the first is location grants. These are directly to the tenant, and we would only consider this if the tenant is kind of a game changer. Let's say an Apple store, something that is going to have a market impact on the area, whether it's a mall, shopping center, whatever. Though I don't know if Apple stores exist in strip malls. The second is a lease buy down. This is if there's like the opposite scenario. There's a tenant who is kind of dragging everything else down. So to buy out their lease so that they can move and help revitalize that area, that's what that's about. We have demolition grant. That's kind of self-explanatory. That's where something needs to be knocked down in order to revitalize an area and to help fund that. Likewise for landscaping renovation, lighting, signage, paving, and neighborhood pedestrian connections. So the philosophical discussion. Should the government be in the business, the government being the city of Plano, be in the business of providing economic incentives, grants, to businesses to facilitate their improvement? This is a murky area. So theoretically, no. Practically, sometimes it depends. The reason for this is we as the city government have a responsibility to promote the long-term vitality of the city. Take Collin Creek, for instance. The slow decay of Collin Creek Mall over a couple of decades didn't just impact the stores in Collin Creek Mall. And I went there in 2019 when I was just a candidate for council, and it was a ghost town. I had worked there when I was a teenager, had a seasonal job there, but it was a ghost town in 2019. There was like one Jamba Juice open, and it was kept alive by a bridge club, barely. So it wasn't just the stores and not just Collin Creek Mall that suffered from that decay. It was the broader area, because in its heyday, Collin Creek Mall drew businesses into the area. So that's really the philosophical crux of the question. Does the city have a role or even a responsibility to help promote revitalization? There's also an economic question to it. So in providing these grants, so we're shelling out taxpayer money. That's what it is, taxpayer funds. You fund it. And we're shelling out taxpayer funds to provide these grants. What kind of economic benefit do you, the people of Plano, receive? So ostensibly, and this is where I say it depends, ostensibly, Collin Creek Mall has, in its slow decline, just to use as an example, has cost the city tens of millions of dollars in property tax revenue because of the declining value of the mall. So I don't know what the actual number is. Let's just call it $50 million over 2 decades, which is probably being very conservative, but $50 million over 2 decades. If the city had invested $10 million, it's a pretty big investment, over those 2 decades to revitalize it by assisting with demolition, landscaping, lease buyouts, location grants, etc. Maybe the Apple store wanted to move from Willow Bend to Collin Creek, hypothetically speaking. The city could, and it's not a guarantee, the city could have recouped the balance of that had the area remained revitalized, had the mall remained revitalized. Stonebrier's doing well. North Park's doing okay. It's not all malls that are dead. Collin Creek Mall died. So would that $10 million revitalization investment have been worth the chance for the $50 million in property tax revenue over the same period. But what if it hadn't panned out that way? What if it had been a $10 million investment and the mall hung on life support a little bit longer and we eked out an extra $5 million for a net loss of $5 million? That's why there are no easy answers here. And that's why it depends. It's on a case-by-case basis. So in general, philosophically, again, when a significant area falls into blight, it drags everything else down with it. And if everything else in the perimeter is dragged down, then everything on the outside of that becomes the new perimeter that gets dragged down, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, until Plano becomes Detroit, which we don't want. So that's what we're considering with the retail revitalization plan. We have a lot of retail area, some of it defunct in the city. And I was having a conversation with somebody about this the other day. The city of Plano, is in some respects an unfortunate victim of timing. So we were built out largely in bursts over the 80s and 90s, right in time for the digital revolution and for digital commerce, e-commerce to really start to ramp up, which put a crimp in all that retail we just built, like all that four-corner retail. Some of it's doing okay, a lot of it's struggling that you drive by. So as we try to look toward the long term, and I'd say 50 years, we want to make sure we've got a good 50-year track to adapt to changing market conditions, economies, trends, et cetera, technology, and demographics to sustain our long-term vitality. And so I think that these retail revitalization grants have a place and they serve a valid purpose, but they have to be exercised judiciously in order to achieve their intended goal and be net revenue positive for the city, which means net revenue positive for you, the taxpayers. Okay, next we got a short-term rental update. The short-term rental task force is ongoing. They're still in the outreach and data collection phase. There will be a short-term rental open house on Wednesday, February 7th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Event 1013. That's a place, Event 1013 in downtown Plano. You can go there. It's more of a come and go thing where you can get information and proposals. You can register your thoughts. You can get information for resources for further information and research. So I encourage you to go to that. Again, that's the short-term rental open house on Wednesday, February 7th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Event 1013 in downtown Plano. They're proposing to have any proposed ordinance amendments to us for the short-term rental interim ban that we enacted last May before the May 15th meeting in time to put it in place before the interim ban expires. If you recall, we enacted the interim ban last May 2023, which says no new short-term rentals. If you are operating an existing short-term rental as of that time, or you had a demonstrable investment interest, like you had just laid down money on a property and we're in the process of turning it into a short-term rental, then you could continue to operate those. So they were kind of grandfathered, but no new short-term rentals after that. Next, we moved into the regular meeting. We had a recognition of 4 neighborhoods that have renewed their best neighborhood categorization: Glen Hollow Estates, Forest Creek Estates, Forest Creek North 3 and 4, and Shoal Creek. Lots of creeks and estates. So congratulations to all 4 of those neighborhoods. We then moved into a substantial amendment to the 2022-23 Home American Rescue Plan, which basically slashed the city's administrative costs, which is good, and put that money back into primarily addressing homelessness and homelessness prevention. And we also clarified and redefined a little bit the definitions of homeless. And I was a little sad to see this, but we removed the designation of veterans because HUD doesn't recognize veterans as a specific class, but of course, veterans who fall under one of the categories of people who can benefit from home funds can still, of course, benefit. So that's it. I am Grizzly Adams, aka Shelby Williams for Plano City Council. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.